Right. We have Lily and Joe born all the way out in Chicago. So we're going to say hello to Lily and Joe. You guys can wave. And we have a couple of guests who are joining us live in the Hangout. And we also have quite a few guests that are watching it live on YouTube. And what makes Lily and her dad so special is that as part of our interview series, where we are trying to interview real interesting people, these are not major superstars, these are just normal everyday people who have shown that problem solving and creativity is very important. And Lily, you've got an interesting story. You are officially an inventor, and you didn't become an inventor through that was something that you always wanted to do, or maybe it was, but from what I understand, you became an inventor by accident. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you want to tell us a little bit about what was the accident, so to speak, and what was the solution that you came up with to make it all happen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Really, it was like about. Well, this kind of brings my grandfather into the story. My grandfather, he has a disease called Parkinson's disease, and it is a disease where it affects how you drink. I've got something, and you just shake a lot, and he's struggling through that. And my invention is the kangaroo cup, and.
He took a picture.
All right.
No, I'm taking photographs all the time. Don't worry.
So basically what it's supposed to do is that it's supposed to make it less likely to tip over because it has 3 legs, and this is the newer version of it. This is the plastic version that just went over the
Okay, what are you holding the cups? Get a photograph of that. That is very cool.
We'll hold it so you can get all see.
I'm just going to mute all the others. Okay, let's have a look so I can get a nice close-up. That's brilliant. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so your grandfather has Parkinson's, which means that obviously his hands are shaking a lot.
Yeah.
He takes a glass, he picks it up, it shakes and spills all over the place. He then puts it down, and sometimes he puts it down in a funny way and it falls over. Who gets to clean up?
I'm sorry, what?
Who cleans up?
Who does the cleaning up?
My grandma. My grandma.
Okay, but when your grandpa comes to visit, who cleans up?
Well, we do.
Probably either him or my aunt.
Okay. So then why would you sit there and think, the cup keeps falling over, he keeps spilling, let me just come up with this idea of a cup? What was going on in your head at the time that you thought, I have an idea?
Kind of what was going on is that I noticed that my grandpa again was shaking a lot and again spilling, which is a pain in the butt to clean up. I think I'm just speaking for my dad here, but so I was thinking, why not put some legs on a cup to make it less likely to tip over?
And had you ever seen a cup with legs before?
Nope.
So what made the idea of legs come to mind?
Because I thought if a cup had something to lean off of, then it wouldn't really be likely to tip.
Okay, so now we have a cup that has a little bit of extra support, which means that it reduces the chance of it falling over. Obviously, it can still fall over, but with all the extra leg support and the way you've designed it, the chance of it falling over is a lot smaller. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what?
The chances.
The chances are obviously, you've got to get used to my accent. The chances of it falling is obviously a little bit smaller. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is there a design mechanism in the cup as well that when someone shakes while holding it, that it has a smaller chance of spilling as well?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you
What did you include in the cup
Well,
to solve that problem?
the splashing.
oh. Well, so the sides are kind of curved in, so
Mm-hmm.
if they splash in, it could just go right back here and then go right back into the cup.
See,
Aha, that is very clever. Can you tilt the cup towards us, front ways, so we can see the actual rim? That's it, like that. And again, that's great. Excellent. Okay, so now you've come up with this cup. From what I've understood, you came up with a ceramic version first,
Yes.
and you did a little bit of traveling to make that happen. Can you tell us that story?
Oh my gosh. All right. So my dad asked me, "Hey Lily, you want to go to China and try to put this in production?" I'm like, "Okay, sure. We should at least try."
Why China of all places?
Um, because because China, specifically Jingdezhen, it's like the capital of porcelain. So so we decided if we're gonna make like a porcelain mug, then we might as well go to where it's most common.
Okay. And
So
you went all the way there? Was that your first time?
no, I'm actually adopted from China,
Oh,
and
so then you obviously know the culture and everything else. Did you know about that being the porcelain capital?
mhm, and that was like my
she's been there a number of
time.
times. I don't know if that was her fourth or fifth trip, but this was her first business trip that she and I have taken.
Very interesting. I like that. I like that. So you're not just an inventor, you're an entrepreneur as well.
I'm sorry. I'm
She said
sorry.
you're not just an inventor, but you're an entrepreneur as well.
Yes. Apparently.
Well, that is fantastic. Okay, so you go all the way to China. You find the factory. They make a few different versions, or did they make it exactly to the specifications that you wanted? Was there a lot of experimentation?
They make a few different versions. Like this was the original.
This is the
Mm-hmm.
original plastic one that my dad used with this hand moldable plastic. And here showing one of the ones we made here.
And then one of them we made at a local studio, like a local clay studio around my house.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
before we went to China, we spent months making a bunch of different prototypes in Skokie of different ceramic ones.
Okay, and I mean, did you get, I mean, any feedback from people? Did people say, what on earth are you making, and why are you making a mug like that? I mean, was there anything that could have been seen as an obstacle to what you were doing?
Oh, sure. Yeah, a lot of people thought they were sort of crazy looking.
So some people said they look like spaceships, which I actually think that they do, kinda.
Right.
Well, you do realize that there's actually a plus to that. You know, if you had NASA logos on it, that would actually be a good thing. So, you know, the fact that it's a spaceship, maybe more kids would drink their milk and that type of thing if they actually had a cup that was more like a rocket.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you made the porcelain one, and I mean, did you make many, or did you just make a few, or what was the plan?
The plan was to make a porcelain version like my dad's drinking that.
Okay, just one,
Okay, it's
or
alright.
make at least a good 1,000 or so to sell.
But
Well, tell them how we went on Kickstarter, the porcelain, and how that.
so we went on Kickstarter, we were going to sell the porcelain, and I think we went over our goal,
Yeah.
and we went over our goal, which was really good. And
You know, that's a very, very positive step. Not everyone gets to fulfill their goal on Kickstarter, so that's an excellent thing. And then you made your porcelain ones, and that went well. And now all of a sudden, I see on Kickstarter there's a new little project happening.
Yep.
What's the new project?
Well, yeah.
Well, you know what the new project is.
It's the new project is the plastic version of it, so it can be used by kids, so they won't break the porcelain. So it's plastic and it won't.
Okay, so obviously plastic has its advantages, microwave proof, dishwasher proof, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
From a stability point of view, from an insulation point of view, keeping cold drinks cold and hot drinks hot, that type of thing.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's the wall of it's kind of a regular thick cup, so it can, it can hold all the usual things the plastic cup can, and like you say, dishwasher, microwave safe, and all that.
And how many are you hoping to make?
Well, our goal was $25,000, which is about 1,000 sets, so about 4,000 pieces, and now I guess we've got orders for about 6,000 pieces.
Wow, that is awesome. And who is your target market? Who do you think you're going to be aiming these cups at?
Who's our target? Well, what kind of customer do we want? Chickens?
I mean, are you aiming it at the Parkinson's community? Are you aiming it at young kids? Are you aiming it at trendy coffee shops? What sort of market would you be aiming it at?
For like mobily I don't know how to say it.
With disabilities.
Yeah,
Well,
and kids.
Yeah, kids. So our idea was that we came out with this 9-ounce cup, but then we started asking people, of the 1,000 people who purchased, what do you want? And it's about evenly split between adults and kids. So there are adults who want to use it for picnics or boating. There's a lot of times you spill, and really you should kind of explain all the advantages of the cup. It's not just spilling. The two handles are good for kids and mobility impaired.
Are you able to hold it up a little bit higher, because we've got all these the faces of all the people who have joined us. We've got Maria, and we've got Cheryl we've got Cheryl in the US, and Maria is all the way out in. Oh, she's busy. She's getting excited about soccer today, because, as you know, there's World Cup big match tonight. So we know which country she's going to be supporting. So you say that there's more than just obviously the spilling and the stability. There's obviously other advantages to the cup as well. Can you just run through those with us as well?
Yeah. Tell your favorite feature, Lily.
My favorite feature would have to be, so as you see, the legs lift up the bottom, so you won't need a coaster. So you won't leave
now,
drinks on the
is that
table.
your favorite, because then you don't get into trouble for putting ice drinks on the table?
Yeah, so you don't have to remember to use a coaster.
Yeah, somebody yells at me for that.
But am I getting a sense that maybe Lily gets reminded about putting her glasses on the table, and they're full of ice, and they leave marks? And maybe that's why the idea came to mind?
Exactly.
Okay. So sometimes inventions happen purely because of circumstance. We
Right.
know that, for example, the first one invention that was created through necessity or circumstance was, there was a young man who was selling hot sausages, and he was giving out a plate to all the customers every time they were eating, and the plates were never coming back. And his brother happened to be a baker, and he said, well, why don't we make a long roll, and we can place the sausage on the roll? And that was about, I think, 1800 something, and that's when the first hot dog was invented. So, you come up with this idea of a cup to help your grandfather, and then you start thinking of all these other things. You know, sometimes Dad says that I'm messing on the table because I'm putting my cup. What would happen if I lifted the base a little bit and I would use the handles to rest on? I mean, that would be an added bonus, and that would be pretty cool. I mean, you often see on Facebook, people are posting great artistic ideas for coffee cups, and there's absolutely no reason why, you know, yours can't suit different markets by having different features. So maybe it is a rocket, or maybe it is an alien ship, or maybe it has measuring on it. You know, the see-through ones could have measurements, and you could use that in the kitchen, and maybe put a little spout on there. So what happens is you develop an idea, and then ideas are spawned from that idea. And one of the ways to find out how you could be using it is to ask the people who've ordered it, what are they going to be using it for? And then you will always get someone who emails you and says, you know what I'd love? Can't you make one twice as big? And then you think to yourself, well, can we make one twice as big? Because then doesn't that play around with the balance? So a lot of problem solving in each prototype that you make.
That's right.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so one of the requests that we've got from our users is for lids. But there's a lot of kind of problems that need to be solved with making lids for it. As simple as that seems like it might be, the lid has to snap on, it has to be able to drink through it easily. So
one of the reasons we went to Starbucks before this was so we could observe the lids.
Yeah, all right. So they went to Starbucks to observe the lids over there. There you go. Very good.
Okay.
What
That's very cool. But now, Lily, obviously, you're in an environment where the idea came to you and everyone thinks, well, that's brilliant. Maybe it was just an independent thought that came to your mind and you developed this cup. But the environment in which you are in, you happen to have a very creative father who likes to make things. And in fact, that is your job. You are an inventor.
Right.
So can you just give us a bit of a background in terms of how you got into inventing and why you would choose that to be your day job as opposed to something else? And what have you invented?
Well, my first product out of college was a CD and DVD repair device called the Skip Doctor. So you turn a crank and it would actually polish out the scratches out of CDs and DVDs. We sold that throughout the U.S. and the world, and sold millions of those. Why did I get into it? You know, I don't know. I like I like inventing things. I like building things. I like doing things with my hands and actually making stuff that you can touch and feel. It's fun. I don't know. I've always kind of had an interest in that. And I studied mechanical engineering in college, and I don't know, I've just stuck with it. I've always done that. I've never done cups or ceramics or any of the kind of housewares we're doing now. I'm electronic.
You're okay with new challenge.
But, the world is so different from when I started this. It took us millions of dollars and years to get products out 20 years ago, and now it's become so easy. Between 3D printers and between crowdfunding, where the people on the internet can actually finance this, to finding factories with these sourcing websites, to selling direct on Amazon. There's 100 things that have made it so much easier, and the net of it is that we can now do this with, Lily as a part-time student in 6th grade, whereas it used to take years and cost millions of dollars. Now, anyone can invent. And part of the reason Lily and I love talking about this, and part of the reason we're here today, is because, people don't realize how easy it's got to invent, and how anyone can do it now, and how, kids can do it, and ordinary lay people, and certainly, it's if you don't know anything about it, you always have to learn. But anyone really can do it. I mean, you don't need upfront money. We did a couple of prototypes and we showed them on crowdfunding, and everything was basically paid for by the crowd. So it's pretty remarkable.
Wow.
The times that we live in.
I mean, generally, if you have an idea and you want to take that idea to the market, you have to design a prototype. You have to build something that people could say, oh, is that what you're talking about? Now, you could literally design it with CAD software, print it on your 3D printer, and that afternoon, you can bring your first prototype to show people.
That's right. That's right. And even before you get to 3D printing, I mean, Lily showed this. We have a question from Maria. Yes, we'll get to that, Marie. So, but this one, I want to point this out. This is a hand moldable plastic. It feels like nylon. This we made, many of these in one afternoon, so that Grandpa could actually try them out. See how it worked, see how it felt. And this you don't even need to go on the computer. You can just mold this by hand. And this is, in many cases, how you start your first prototype. You mentioned this important point that what I think was helpful to me with Lily, because somebody asked Lily the other day, why don't they give more credit to kids and see their potential? And she said, well, I don't think a lot of adults really have a lot of imagination. And I think it's true, because you really do need imagination to see, something that looks as rudimentary as this, which is always duct tape and cardboard and pipe cleaners and stuff. But, to be able to see that and do it. But then we did
Ken Robinson.
3D. Huh?
Ken Robinson was the one who he's very big on creativity, and he was saying that schooling today does stifle creativity in young kids. That the aim or the goal of completing your schooling is to move towards mathematics, engineering, and science, which is not a bad thing, because I love maths and science, and I'm hoping that Lily is also a big fan, and I'm sure you are, because with your mechanical engineering background and that type of thing, clearly I think it's important that you have some sort of mathematics background in terms of problem solving. But the schooling, in the old days when we were younger, we would play in the sand pit, we would go outside, we would do woodwork and creative things, and as you start getting into high school, you move away from those subjects and you do more formal learning. And I think that that's probably a very bad thing, that we move away from our creativity and only focus on the mathematics and the sciences and the languages, when we should be focusing on some of the creativity as well. But now you obviously are, you're more of a practical kind of guy. I mean, being an engineer, you tend to be practical, but you're in a very creative environment. So does that mean that if you're working with other creative people, it rubs off on each other?
Yes, I think it does. I mean, we actually are here in an office called Catalyze here in Chicago on Lake Street, and this is all a group of, it's a co-working space of all inventors or physical product developers. We've got 3D printers behind us. There's other machine shop equipment here, and being amongst other creative people who are doing physical product work. Sometimes that's very simple stuff like getting advice on some electronics or something mechanical or whatever it is, or a vendor, or even customers. But there's a huge amount of benefit in that sharing, and I think we're seeing more and more of that. And I do want to get to one point you mentioned earlier, which I think is very important. Part of the reason I wanted to help Lily bring this invention to market is to give her the why behind the math and engineering. It's very easy to throw equations and math at them, but we wanted to give her some why it's important.
I think it's fantastic. Practical maths. Now, I know that Mr. Karnasak in Chicago has got some questions, so I think he's going to unmute, and he's going to get one of his students or a couple of them to ask some questions. So, Mr. K, you can fire away.
Hello, I'm Jared. My question is, what are you planning to do in the future? Are you planning to like make a different design or to do something else?
You hear that?
Did you guys get that question?
Can you do a different design?
We're, we're actually planning to do a kangaroo bowl, which we're not sure about yet, but we might be. So,
Sure.
yeah.
That makes sense.
Cool.
Okay. I mean, obviously, in any invention that you make, it's important to obviously find out what your market wants. You can't just make things that you think the market will want, because then they don't buy it. You've got to make what the market wants, and then they do buy it. So you're obviously going to be doing a poll from the people who bought the products and asked, do you have any ideas of how we could possibly best use the item, and maybe even create more business out of that.
Should we ask our customers what they want?
Okay, who's next? Next question.
Okay, Emma has a question.
Hey, hi, I'm Emma. My question is, when did you start making this invention?
When did you start? Is that the question?
When did she start?
When did you start? How old was Lily, and how old were you when you started?
Oh gosh, all right. We started like when I was around 9 years old, and
Fourth grade?
yeah, 4th grade. And
how old are you now?
and that's when I made the original design.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when he was in 4th grade, we made this one, and then when she was in 5th grade, then this one, the porcelain one, and now that she's in 6th grade,
We made the plastic version.
yeah.
Okay, and how old are you now? Which grade are you in at the moment?
I am 11 years old, turning 12 in August.
Okay, so and you in which grade? Which grade are you going into?
I'm going into 7th.
7th grade. Okay, so this has been a couple of years in the making.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's see. We can Mr. K, you're going to unmute yourself. There we go.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and my question is, do you sell them online, or do you have them at like Target and Jewel and stuff?
Because we're from the Chicago area.
Good question. You hear that?
Yep. We actually sell them online on Kickstarter. You can get them. Like, how many days do we have left?
Yeah, for another month, you'll be able to pre-order on Kickstarter, and then we will ship. So with Kickstarter, why don't you tell them how Kickstarter works?
Okay, so how Kickstarter works? It's basically you put a product on there. You pick your funding goal, which means if people pre-order and put money into it, which is called backing, they put money in. Let's say your goal is $1,000. If you get $1,000, then they get the product. But if you get over $1,000, then you might want to start a stretch goal, which means you might just want to add on something to it. So, but there's a catch. There's a certain amount of days that you have to get to your goal.
Yeah.
So
we have about, like Lily says, about 3 weeks left, and then we use all that money, all the pre-orders, to actually build the tools that will make the plastic cups. Then we build the tool, actually pre-ordering now, and then we'll deliver those in October. Oh, how much does each cup cost?
like 4 for
Yeah.
30, 25.
No, 4 for 25.
4 kangaroo cups is $25.
4 cups for $25, and they stack up. It's not like you've got to try and find space for your little rockets. I mean, they do stack up Have you got one or two as an example to show? There we go. Look how they stack up. That is. Let's get a photograph of that. That's pretty cool. Got it. Got it. Excellent. That is very cool. I mean, I can just imagine that if you did have those different stages of a rocket, that would be pretty cool for a kid's bedroom to have cups that have little alien things painted on. I mean, it could be quite a cool motif. So now, did you look into, for example, the handles? When you hold the handles, did you have the imprint of fingers on the underside to make it more comfortable, or did you look at rounded edges on the outside? What have you thought about that at all?
Yes, I asked my cousin Simon, and I asked him, okay, so how does it feel? What do you think? And he said the legs are kind of making my hand not feel good. So I decided to make it more of a circular handle, so you'll get a better grip on it.
Ah, very cool. And what you did was market research. So for the boys and girls that are listening, you can't just make a product and then go and sell it. You've actually got to check it out with people who you want to sell it to. You've got to test it out. You've got to ask people their opinion. And Lily, she did a very extensive study of going to just her cousin Simon. And maybe if she had gone to her cousin Simon and some of his friends, maybe a little bit more information would have given her some important feedback to make the cup the way it is. But now this cup is called a kangaroo cup. Is that correct?
Yes.
And why kangaroo?
Okay, so this kind of has a story to it. So when me and my dad were in China putting at night, and before the kangaroo cup, it was called the no spill cup, which we obviously had to change the name. And so my dad read online that a kangaroo not only uses its two legs to jump, but its tail. So we thought that a kangaroo would kind of have like 3 legs, like the kangaroo.
So it's like a tripod with the tail and the 2 legs. Mm-hmm. That is very cool. And of course, a kangaroo stores its little baby, the Joey, in the front pouch. So it's almost like the cup is storing your juice in the front pouch. That's pretty cool. I like that. So I'm surprised that you're not marketing it on a large scale in Australia.
Well, for the ceramic ones, we had like so many people from different countries, like buying and getting the cup, and a lot of people were actually from Australia that backed
That's very cool.
the product.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's another thing
we're
that you
really
learn.
using.
Yeah, that's one of the things you learn is that when you have a product, you can't just give it any old name, because sometimes a name can play a huge role in how people see it or how they value it. And obviously the no spill cup is great, but from a marketing point of view, it's not really very over the top exciting. But with kangaroo cup, it's got a bit of a ring to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want something that people could easily remember and search.
And it's an unusual name. Kangaroo cup makes you think, why would they call that a kangaroo cup? And that generates more interest in the actual item.
Right.
So you see,
Yep.
and obviously, kangaroo cup. Maria says that alliteration helps, and David says that he's running out of time, but he wants to know: do you have any advice that you would give young students with regards to inventing and starting up your own business? Because you really are a businesswoman. So, what sort of advice would you give younger students?
Advice I'd give to younger people is that there's actually 2 parts to this. Do not be afraid to fail. It will not the product will not come as it is. Like you can't just pull out like a finished, well refined product like just out of nowhere. It will fail a few times. So just don't be afraid to fail, and always do not be afraid to ask for help, because I could not do my dad's girl, and a bunch of other people. And so just don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to fail. So that's my 2 pieces of advice.
That is actually very good advice. I mean, at the end of the day, if you are too much of a perfectionist and you're expecting the first product to be the one that counts, you probably will give in very quickly if you don't see results. And the fact that this is your 4th year and you're still developing the product even more as you go along is very important advice. That if you've got an idea and you believe in it, you should stick with it, but don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid if people don't like the first version. You change it until you get the next version.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of, obviously the future of your cup, I mean, you've got a cup. Are you planning any other eating utensils or implements to go with it?
Planning any other eating utensils?
A kangaroo bowl, maybe. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, a lot of people are telling us they want a bowl for soup and that won't spill and can sit on other surfaces. Maybe glass products. People have asked about that, and like you said, people asked about the different sizes. They asked about lids, but we've got our hands full with each one of these products is much harder to bring to market than you'd think. And one of the students asked a very good question: where do you buy it? Well, the next thing for us is really to get new customers, and so it is sold at Target or various stores, so it's much easier to get. I mean, today you have to order it just one place online, and then we ship it months later. So once we get into production, we need to find more customers and sell it there too. So there's a lot of work to do. That's for sure.
I can imagine. I mean, each little product is its own full-time job. And if you think about different companies, big brand names have their own brand managers for each item within a company. So, I mean, it would make sense that to spend a lot more time on other products. You can develop the ideas, but you would need to actually hand over to a brand manager to actually manage it, which is quite a thing. Because not everyone wants to let go of their invention and hand it over to someone else to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
This is Lily's baby, isn't it?
Is this your baby?
Uh,
Why are you looking at me? You're my baby. I don't know who your baby is.
Well, I know that Mr. K and his class are going to go, so you can say goodbye to Mr. K's class. Bye-bye, boys and girls. And as you can see, they are almost on vacation. I think they still have another week to go. So you can already feel that the landing gear, the arms of their little kangaroo cup have already landed down, and they are ready to get out of school and go on summer holiday, and hopefully maybe go to the shop and see a kangaroo cup every now and again. I mean, I can honestly see that that there's huge potential, and the fact that people are showing you support on Kickstarter not once but twice, because you've done crowdsource funding for the ceramic one, and you've done crowdsource funding for the plastic one. That means that there is a certain, well, quite a high level of faith in the actual product itself. And as a young person, I've noticed that already Lily's using certain terminology with regards to the backing and the stretching of the when people endorse the product and they commit money to it, they pledge money to it, you can then stretch if you go further. I can already see that she's learning very quickly about business, and that's the nicest way to learn, when you're actually doing it for yourself. And I know that Cheryl is convinced that you are a very impressive young lady, and she says that you must keep innovating. And of course, you know, Janet says that you're doing a great job, and you know, that's one of the reasons why I was connected to communicate with you, because you know, I teach a few thousand kids here in Cape Town, South Africa, and we do a lot of math enrichment and creativity and thinking outside the box. And I've come across a couple of kids who've had some brilliant ideas, but because it was several years ago, they never had access to 3D printers. They never had access to crowdsource funding. They never had access to the internet like you do today. Today, literally, you can write a book, self-publish it, and sell it. We have a guy in Cape Town who we're hoping to interview as well, Matthew Mole, who's a very well-known singer now, but a couple of, let's say 6 to 10 months ago, no one knew who he was. And his album was number one download on iTunes for 3 weeks. So here comes someone out of the blue, and they have an album that you can download, and they're number one for 3 weeks on international iTunes. And no one in South Africa knows who the guy is. And then all of a sudden, everyone's talking about him, and now he's a big name here. But it just shows you that, you know, Justin Bieber was identified and spotted on YouTube. And that's where all of a sudden things happened. So the fact that you're doing this interview, someone might see this and go, I need to get in touch because I want to mass produce this, or I want to buy the idea. And all of a sudden, a whole bunch of other doors open purely because of your exposure. And we could never do that many, many years ago. This is all so rapid and so advantageous from a business point of view. But for a young person like you, Lily, I mean, the world is your oyster, literally, and it's a finger tap with a mouse away. I mean, you could create your own website, you could sell your own products, people would want to come and work for you. You might have to start your own company. You might have to give your dad a real job.
Hey. I think it's a remarkable time to be alive. There's never been a transition between generations that went from ours, where there were gatekeepers to get out an adventure idea, to the world Lily was born into, where every idea, invention, piece of art, cultural idea can get spread throughout the globe at the speed of light in her own voice. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable.
And how does Lily handle all the fame? I mean, does she have paparazzi walking around chasing her? Does she have people, begging, maybe you could give me a discount on a kangaroo cup? I mean, like, what's been going on?
Yeah, what's it like to be a famous inventor, Lily? That's a good question. Tell us.
All right, so in 5th grade, I introduced the kangaroo cup to my classmates, and then all of them asked, "Oh, can I get one for free?" And then I'm like, "Dude, just pay, it'll be fine." And then this morning, I was having breakfast with my dad's girlfriend, and then she was just feeding me all this good news that was coming out right at my face, and then I'm like, "Okay, stop. Okay, I can't handle this much good news at once. Tell me stuff bad. Sit down." And then she said, "You're not getting allowance for a month." And then I'm like, "Thank you."
That is, I mean, rather have that problem than not have any problem at all. I mean, that's fantastic. So, and apparently this is you've got 3 interviews lined up for today. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
This is the second. We had our local WGN News interviewed Lily this morning, and then this evening the Maker Mom is interviewing Lily.
Very cool, very cool. I mean, obviously, I've seen postings about you on Facebook, and the I work with a lot of other NGOs around the world, and we've got a lot of creative NGOs in particular, and I know that they are busy watching this online as well. The guys from the Imagination team that are the guys who are also behind Kane's Arcade. I don't know if you know about Kane's Arcade.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. So those guys they were the ones who put a link up about you as well. and hopefully they're busy watching it live on YouTube as we speak. And you know, for them, it's all about showcasing young people who are showing innovation, and for me, there's no greater joy than someone who is able to come up with these ideas, and now you are getting the recognition that you actually deserve, which is fantastic.
I think that's definitely true. The other thing is that part of the reason I have so much passion, yes, we're from Chicago. Cheryl is asking us.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago. But part of the reason I have so much passion for this is that you asked what it's like to be an inventor. Lily's heard me say this 100 times, but you know, 2.5 years ago, Lily was so shy she didn't want to order from a restaurant by herself. And now, you know, we can talk to you guys. She stood in front of 100 adults at this maker showcase here, showing people. You know, by doing this stuff, you get empowered, and you believe that the work you do and your ideas are important, and they have value, and that has just caused Lily to just, you know, blossom. And you know, luckily she's very humble, and she hasn't got to insufferable, not yet. It really has to just absolutely blossom. And so when I see that, to me, these programs are much more than just bringing a product to market. It's getting kids to see what they can do, and introducing them to the power of the world that they were born into, which, you know, virtually nobody knows. I mean, the things we're talking about, you know, when they ask Lily, why do adults underestimate kids, I think part of it is her answer that a lot of adults don't have a lot of imagination. But even beyond that, we grew up in a world where this wasn't possible. So a lot of our judgment is based on the world we grew up in, which is not the world we live in today. And so how is it possible if you grew up in a world where, you know, you had to sell to a department store and you had to get the consent of a factory owner to bring something, to imagine what's possible in a world where there's crowdfunding and where you can 3D print and you can do all these, you know, easy prototypes and all these easy market tests and everything else. Well, that changes everything. So it's really something kids need to know, and they need to know about their world, and they need to know about their own capabilities. And this is a very good way for them to find that out.
Well, I think Lily's very fortunate because she has a positive role model guiding her. And you know, the other thing is that, and Janet had to leave, so Janet said goodbye and thanks for the hangout. The main issue is that not every parent has the time to focus on a project like this, and not every parent would actually say, listen, I think it's a good idea, but you know, I'm going to stop and we're going to focus on this, and we're going to help not just develop the product, but help develop you. And I think that, you know, I can clearly see that you guys have got a close bond. And what makes it really enjoyable is the fact that, you know, you're not just doing it because obviously there's a financial benefit to it, but I mean, you're really doing this for Lily. I mean, you really want Lily to develop as a person and live to her full potential, which is fantastic.
You can develop the person.
I think we lost you there for a second.
Yeah.
We lost you there for a second. You disappeared for a second.
Part of what did start this was Lily was always asking me, what am I good at? And, you know, I'd say, oh, you have a great heart and people like you. And she'd say, what subject am I good at? And I felt like if we sat down and solved a problem around the house that she could invent, because I knew she was a good inventor, I said, you know, that would show her that, you know, that would answer a question, what's she good at? And then it really just took off from there. I did not expect it to be anything like this. I say this is like that when you plant a pumpkin patch in your backyard and it grows over to consume the entire backyard. This project is sort of like that. It's come to just consume everything.
But then at least you've started a pumpkin pie factory, so you thought about it and you've done something positive.
Right. Yes. So now all our neighbors are eating pumpkin pies.
That is, well, and I'm sure people are asking for free pumpkins. That is so cool. So now, I mean, you this big business executive. Does that mean maybe you're going to have to drop out of school and take over your own building and start a corporation, or you're just going to stick to going back to school in September and being the usual Lily that you are?
Well, my dad sometimes he pulls me out of school for like an interview or something, but yeah, I have to go to school.
I get a sense that you're quite a smart young lady, so if you miss a couple of hours of school, it probably wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah, well, Lily is, to put it in context, we went to a birthday party on Saturday, right in all the midst of all this attention and press attention, and then I pulled Lily out of, not pulled her out, but I picked her up from the birthday party, and then I asked, her friend if she even knew about Lily's project, and she didn't. So I kind of like that Lily is very low-key about it. She's not, bragging, and I think she could be handling it pretty badly, and she seems to be handling it pretty badly.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's fantastic. And now, is that one of your other inventions, Lily, that you're holding?
Nope. I just found this.
This is something that was printed out. This is printed on the 3D printer with the flexible materials. So they just did this for a demo. Someone else in this office did that.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Maybe we'll get a kangaroo version of a skeletal cup that doesn't hold water, but maybe it holds something else.
What do you think?
I mean, what about a flexible cup?
Oh, what's that?
What about a flexible cup? One that you can squeeze. That could be interesting.
Yeah, what do you think of that? Yeah, that's a good idea.
You never know. And maybe one that's got compartments for marshmallows, so when you pour your hot chocolate in, you can store your little marshmallows and throw them in. You never know. Like a little part of the rocket, there'll be different stages, and if you lift them up, you can put your marshmallows, and what else do you throw in a hot chocolate that would make it awesome?
Like a pouch. A kangaroo cup could have
a kangaroo pouch. That would be cool. Well, guys, we want to thank you so much for giving us the time. I know that Lily is a very important person, and I know that Joe is also very busy, and Lily has school vacation at the moment, which means we're eating into incredibly valuable time. If it was school time, she'd be happy to grant an interview for 6 hours. But when it's school holidays, people don't like to mess around. They've got stuff to do. They've got people to go and meet, autographs to sign, and orders to fulfill. So we want to thank you so much for giving us of your time. And we will be watching you. Don't worry. We'll be keeping an eye on you to see how things develop. We're very excited that you are a young inventor. We know that maths and science are definitely some of your favorites, and we like the fact that you are creative as well, very important. And you've sent a very strong message to young people that they mustn't give up, that they must be willing to make mistakes, and you never know, they could be the next Lily Bourne. So we thank you so much for your time, and we will say goodbye to everyone. I'm going to end the broadcast over here, and let me stop the broadcast.